Right, ladies and gents, this is your introduction to changing places. And I like to start with a few photographs just to try and get you in the right headspace for what on earth we mean, because it's a really simple concept. I'll talk about what a place is in a minute geographically, but we have all got some sense of a place being somewhere on the Earth's surface. So let's take that for now. Places change, don't they? This is the front of our beloved college, and the front of it has changed remarkably over the years. That happens. That probably happens in your house. Things get decorated, possibly extensions get added, or rooms change purpose, or the garden might, I don't know, have a new flower bed dug in it. Places change over time, and basically that's all this module is about, in a slightly more academic way, of course, but that is what it's about. This is Taunton in 1888. Those of you that don't know Taunton, this will be pretty meaningless, but those of you that do, this is obviously quite different. This thing is now a roundabout. All of this is road, and there's not these lovely parks with markets on them. There are definitely not horses and carriages going up and down between the buildings. It's changed. Exeter, for those who live in the southwest, pretty much the only recognisable feature is the blue boy statue. Everything else around that statue is completely different. There, I won't open this hyperlink now, but it's just pictures of places all around the UK, what they used to look like and what they look like now. Okay, so the whole idea of the module is that places are dynamic, meaning they change. They change literally, as I've just shown you, and they change in meaning. And that's something we're going to be picking up on very, very shortly. Therefore, all places are changing places. And if you can get that in your head, the rest of the module will be a doddle, ladies and gents. COVID will make an appearance because COVID has really changed places. It's had a dramatic impact on the high street. It's had a dramatic impact on commuting, on businesses and all sorts of things. So yeah, absolutely, COVID will be mentioned in this module. And as I talked to you in the middle of lockdown number 3, I don't even know what changes are possibly yet to come. So yeah, watch this space. That's for me, one of my favourite things about this module is every year I teach it, it's a little bit different, because that's the nature of change, isn't it? It's going to keep on moving. Right, definition of place. This is in your module booklet. You can choose either of these. The one on the left requires a bit more learning. The one on the right is a bit more straightforward, but you just need to pick whichever one of those makes the most sense to you. And we're going to spend a little bit of time now picking up on what we mean by meaning. Slightly ironic sentence, but so what I do is I show people pictures of these 4 places, and I just say, what does it mean to you? Like, do you get any feelings or thoughts or memories or emotions or anything that comes up when you look at these places? And it might be nothing, and that's fine. That's what it means to you, or it might mean something. So for me, this happens to be Exeter Cathedral. I think of the Christmas market. I think of my friends getting married, not in the cathedral, but in there's a hotel nearby, and they had their photographs on Cathedral Green. I think of the Lego Cathedral that me and my son go and add a brick to. They are the kinds of things that I think of. Now, it's unlikely that many of you think about my friend's wedding. You probably certainly won't think of the Lego Cathedral. You might think of the Christmas market. This is Vivery Park. Those of you that know Vivery probably have got all sorts of memories associated. I think of feeding the ducks. I think of ice cream. I think of all sorts of things. That's Cribbs Causeway. I think, really, I'm not much of a shopper, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I think Christmas and queues. I think Yo Sushi, yeah, I suppose I'm quite food oriented. And here I think traffic jams, Pigs, there's a really big pig farm near Stonehenge, and I always kind of look at the pigs out the window. Don't worry, I'm not driving if I'm looking at the pigs out the window. So these all have some kind of meaning to me. They might have meaning to you, they might not. And that's all we're trying to get across, okay? These were pieces of geographic space that had different meaning to me, to it had to you, or maybe you didn't have any meaning at all. That's all we're trying to get across. Okay, so it's the location and the meaning associated. Now, the problem with that is meaning can be very individual and it can be shared. So some of you might have had similar things to what I thought. You might have had something very individual. Because different people can feel differently about the same place, there can be conflict. And Stonehenge is a really good example of this, but there are more local ones. You've got archaeologists and pagans and tourists and all sorts of people who just want to come to the exact same space and use it in very different ways. To give more local examples, there are quite a few arguments going on about new houses being built in Taunton. Some people think it would be great for Taunton to have more houses. Other people see it as a green field and a space for nature. It's the same piece of geographical space, but people have incredibly different feelings about it. So meaning can be individual, it can be shared, it can cause conflict, okay? And then you just need to think, well, what affects how you feel about a place? I've chosen an image of a supposedly haunted house. I have no idea if it is or not. But, you know, your experiences of the place will affect how you feel, won't they? If you've had a negative experience or a positive experience, or the memories that you have about it, or what you've heard from other people, all of that kind of stuff. So meaning can be affected by a myriad of things, and it can definitely be affected by history. And I just wanted to mention this example partly because of the whole in the importance, I think, of us talking about the Black Lives Matter movement and some of the misconceptions out there in the wider public about the Black Lives Matter movement. Because Bristol, which is not that far from us in Taunton, has a rather shameful past, which is that it was a very key part of the African slave trade in the Victorian times. And it's something that we don't want to celebrate. You absolutely must not celebrate this, but equally there's a delicate balance between not celebrating it but not hiding away from it. We have to admit that it happened. We have to confess to these crimes, but without seemingly, having maybe big statues which celebrate these people. So my point here is, if you were an African American, the meaning that you would associate with Bristol might be affected by this. Okay. Now this is not crucial for you to know. This is a little optional extra, if you like. So you do not need to revise everything it shows you on the screen at the moment. It's just worth knowing for a bit of history. It's worth knowing for a bit of local knowledge. And it's just worth knowing for your kind of, wider understanding. So lots of Bristol buildings were built from profits from the slave trade. Colston Hall is probably one of the most famous. It has now changed its name because it was named after Edward Colston, who made most of his wealth from slavery, and his was the statue that got toppled and chucked into the river, famously in 2020. And if this is something that you are interested in and you don't feel that you have maybe been taught enough in your general education, I've just put some hyperlinks there. As you can see, they are all on the BBC. The BBC is doing a huge amount of stuff about Black and British and Black Lives Matter, which would be worth checking out for interest and, as I said, wider understanding. But the point I'm trying to make here is what affects how you feel about a place. It might be your own experience, but it might be the history. You might have researched your family tree and discovered that one of your descendants had you know, a terrible time in a place. History will affect meaning. So that's all a little extra. Certain medical conditions and disabilities will affect how you feel about places. A lot of disabled people are making the point that the countryside is pretty much out of bounds to them because of these styles. If you suffer from hay fever really badly, the countryside does not feel very welcoming in spring and summer. I.e., meaning can be affected by many things and it can change over time. How you feel about a place today could change in 2 years' time or whatever. Okay? Right. That's meaning and place. Character, much easier. People have a character. Now, because I don't want any of you to get offended, I generally get people to think about what is the character of Homer Simpson, because he's not real. We can't upset him. So if you're not familiar with The Simpsons, then obviously this is not really gonna be of much use to you, but you could maybe think to yourself about the character of somebody in your friendship group or in your family. We're all different, aren't we? We've all got our own unique characters. And what we need to understand as human geographers is that places have characters. Now, it's a bit of a weird idea, but actually it does make perfect sense. And if you are you because of a particular combination of qualities that make you you, well, that applies to places, doesn't it, as well? Because everyone's house is different, everyone's street is different, everyone's town is different, and it's that particular combination of qualities that makes that place that place. And what we have to do as human geographers is figure out what that particular combination of qualities is and why is it like it. This is a residential street somewhere in the UK, I don't know where. This is the second most expensive area of housing in England, which is Sandbanks in Poole. They are clearly very different places and they clearly have very different characters. I've gone for extremes, but you will notice this in your own area as well. The most important control on the character of a place is who lives there. All right, more than anything else, the most important control on a character of a place is who lives there. And that's going to have links with migration, so people moving in and out. It's going to have links with history. It's going to have all sorts of things. But that is the biggest single control on the character of a place, because that will link with levels of education and wealth and dominant religions and age and noise, and what kind of shops and services you find. Are they targeted at young people? Are they targeted at old people? Yeah, it affects everything, really. So that's the most important. But generally, we just divide them, into endogenous and exogenous. Endogenous are internal and exogenous are external. I don't need you to learn all of them. A couple of each would be lovely. So for me, I think as geographers, learning the fact that physical geography will have a key impact on the character of a place is worth remembering. Is it on a floodplain? Is it at the top of a mountain? What continent is it in? Is it near the coast? All that kind of stuff. That's obviously going to affect the character of a place, and you can pick one of the other. I personally would probably go for demographic, because I think things linked with the people have a huge impact. Exogenous, bit different, so it's external to the place. What businesses are there? You know, are there any multinational companies in that place? Or have you had people moving into the area from other countries? Have you got immigrants in the area? That sort of thing, okay? So places have a character, just like people do. The character is the particular set of qualities that make it that place. The most important control is who lives there, and then we can divide them generally into endogenous and exogenous. This, if I've confused you massively, And you're like, I don't understand any of this, Nikki. If you go on for Time for Geography website, under their Changing Places section, this video about Portsmouth might help you. It talks about meaning and all of those things. So if you need to hear it from a different person, then I would have a look at that. The final bit for this first video doesn't take very long. Function. So if I said, okay, what's the function of me as your teacher? What's my job? What's my purpose for being? Why am I here? Well, I'm here to help you get the very best possible grade that you can in A-level geography. That is my function. And yes, I do always try and use an analogy of a person, because experience has taught me that people seem to understand that. So my function is to do that. You're fulfilling the role of student. Your job is to learn and to do as much as you can to get the best possible grade in geography. And function of places is in your module booklet, which I can show you. Okay, so it's there, look, at the bottom of your page. The function of an area is its purpose for being, and it will change. Okay, so the original reason that London was where it was is probably different to what London's function is now, for example. They give you the example of Newcastle. You could also think about your hometown. Usually, towns and cities will do all of these things. So if I think of Taunton, which is a town, it is a place where people work. We've got the county council and the district council here. So it's an administration centre. It's got all the things that keep everything ticking over. I know it seems ridiculous talking about this in a COVID year, but we've got a cricket ground, we've got a football ground, we've got 10-pin bowling, we've got shops, we've got restaurants. You know, do you remember those days? When you could go out and do all these things. We've got churches, we've got mosques, we've got important religious places, we've got a bus station, we've got a train station. It's a place that people live. So it's not a big part of the syllabus, it's just one of those, make sure you've heard it. Okay, so lesson number 1, meaning, place, character, function are your key ideas. All right. Well done all.